You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we got a lot to get to today, but I want to just kind of open with an issue that I think a lot of people aren't aware of and they need to be. It's when you go to a hot tub and there's other people in the hot tub. There's a little bit of etiquette. The hot tub is starting to become a little bit stressful for a lot of us people who know something about hot tub etiquette, but don't see everybody else follow hot tub etiquette. So just to recap, I was in Panama City, Florida. I wanted to check out the Panhandle. It was amazing. Gorgeous. The sand, it's interesting. I've been to Clearwater and Tampa and all that. And so the Gulf of America, you start to now see signs Gulf of America. It's pretty cool. But I'm like, okay, this is our Gulf, but I don't care what the Gulf is named. But the beaches are beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. And the sand doesn't get hot because it's made of quartz. It's a different type of sand that you get on the Pacific or you get near that's more volcanic and richer in minerals. Most of the quartz type fine particulate matter of the Gulf beaches will reflect the light. So it doesn't get hot, so you can be barefoot. So really, really cool. But after I go to the beach, I like to go into a hot tub. I just like to go to the hot tub. I like to warm up, my muscles, fibromyalgia type stuff. I just love the hot tub. But interestingly, there's different conversations that you could get yourself into or different sort of drama you could get into in the hot tub. Now, I'm pretty drama free because I just go into the hot tub, I do my thing, and then I leave. But what's interesting is I really wanted to stay in the hot tub for a little bit, and there was this conversation that was happening, and the hot tub's really small. So when somebody's talking and they're loud about it, right? And they're, almost, I guess, encompassing the hot tub, but they're really only talking to certain people. You don't want to look like you're engaging. You don't want to look like you're eavesdropping. So you're trying to look away. Yeah. And it's hard to look away when you're basically, maybe only 5 feet away from the person talking. And so I'm sitting there and, there's really no other place to look, because, you can look down, you can pretend. How do you pretend you're not listening? And they're getting pretty personal about talking about some personal stuff. And so I'm sitting there going, well, shoot, I could get out of the hot tub or I could participate in the conversation, which is, as like, I still want to stay in the hot tub. So while they're, these people are kind of talking pretty loud about it, I'm like, I'm going to join in. I'm like, look, I don't want to pretend I can't hear you. But, I love what you're talking about and blah, 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 whatever. And so then I jump in. So now I'm involved in the conversation I really don't want to be in, but it's because I want to look forward and not have to look to the side and, sublux one of my cervical vertebrae to not look like I'm paying attention. I'm trying to enjoy the bubbles. The other thing too, that a lot of people will do is take over the bubbles. Now, usually there's a few jets and you're going into it because you want to get the jet and then there's no jet. And you're like, come on, man, how long are you going to be there? Apparently, hot tub etiquette is you're only supposed to be there for about maybe 15 minutes, and then you're supposed to move. You're also not supposed to dry off your sand and your clothes in the hot tub. So somebody comes over to the hot tub. I keep thinking of the Eddie Murphy, when he's pretending to be James Brown. He's imitating James Brown in the hot tub. So people come to the hot tub, and then they dump their sandy stuff in there. So now you start getting sand and you're like, well, I don't want sand in the hot tub. Or they spray themselves in front of you and you're breathing. I don't like aerosol sunscreen. I like the rub-on better. I'm not a big fan of chemicals, but you got to protect yourself from the sun. But they spray it, and if there's wind, now you're breathing in the sun. You got, come on, man, you do that outside the hot tub area, all right? And then when they get out of the hot tub, they stand there and they completely soak the cool deck. Now, you could wring yourself out in the hot tub, but or just move, just get the hell out. So now there's a puddle, so now you have to worry about slipping. Hot tub etiquette is you don't stay there for too long. You don't get loud. You don't make people uncomfortable with the conversation you're having. Now, try not to make out or have sex if there's other people and strangers in the hot tub, right? Don't dump your sand. Don't dump your dirt. Don't spray your. I mean, no glass. That's another thing too. So I'm seeing people kind of drunk, and they aren't using an aluminum can. They got a glass Michelob or a glass Coors or whatever. And you see them almost drop the glass. the thing happened a dozen times. And I'm okay, I need to get the hell out of here before they break the glass. And so, I had a great time, but it's just now it's like I only want to go to the hot tub when nobody else is there, or there's only one person doing hot tub rules. And you can tell when somebody's doing hot tub rules. You can tell because what they do is they purposely go away from the stairs. I can't stand when I'm trying to get into a hot tub and they're sitting there on the stairs. So you have to basically climb over their shoulders and over their head to get into stupid hot tub. So they go to the farthest area of it. They ask if the temperature's okay, or do you want to add more of the bubbles? That's what I'll always do because there's a timer. Do you guys need more time? I'll add more, because I was here before you guys. I know what you guys, to sit in a hot tub and then the bubbles stop is pretty, it's pretty traumatizing. But then, they look away and they don't, bug you, and they don't look like they're trying to listen to your conversation, and they're just kind of doing their own thing, which, by the way, what are you supposed to do in the hot tub? I mean, do you read? Do you meditate? Do you think? Because then I also don't want to look weird. Because so let's say I'm the only adult now. Well, now there's like kids, and I don't want to look like I'm sitting there, predatoring on kids, so that I just get the hell out of the hot tub. I'm sorry. Anyway, trip was great until there was some storms in Houston. I forgot that Houston has a lot of issues. And so I was on a plane, and then we had to deplane. I hate it when they tell you to get off the plane, because you finally get comfortable. You start figuring out what you're going to watch on your screen. You figured out how to get some overhead space, and then the pilot comes saying, guys, we got to deplane. Houston wants a wheels up or a wheels down time of whatever. And my problem is I had a connecting flight. I usually only like to fly direct, but when you can't fly direct, you have a connecting flight, any delay in your original destination or your original departure can mess things up. So about 2.5 days later, I finally made it back home. It was good, except for the hot tubbing. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So, Spirit Airlines collapsing over the weekend, not good. I think we all saw the signs. They've been having trouble for years, but it was pretty abrupt where passengers and crew found out that operations at Spirit Airlines was going to cease abruptly. So then over the weekend, on Saturday or Sunday, if you had a flight on Spirit Airlines, you had to find another place to go. The other airlines kind of stepped up and said, look, we can, we'll cap like the price at $200. We'll give you discounted seats wherever we can. But it's a mess. And so you're hearing a lot of back and forth as to who's at fault. Why didn't Biden allow JetBlue and Spirit to merge? Why was that such a big deal? Was it really antitrust? Why? Because if they merged, would they still be around today? Why didn't the Trump administration give them a $500 million bailout? I don't know if that would have been the answer either, because there's a natural evolution to businesses and companies. And with Spirit Airlines filing for bankruptcy, I think twice before this happened, they were already sputtering. And as much as you want to give them life support and lifeline, if the previous administration didn't want them to merge because they thought it would be against competition, and they have a failed business model, there's only so much more money can do. Either a bigger airline has to assume them or consume them, or they go out of business. So here we are today. So interestingly, so I've never flown Spirit Airlines. Now maybe it's because I'm West Coast, so I've flown Southwest a lot, American, United, Delta. So when I go back east, usually I do JetBlue for New York. I have the miles. I like the upgrades I get. So I do a lot of JetBlue. But Southwest, JetBlue, and now United. I've been flying more in United. But I got to tell you, there's not really a lot of choices. When I look and I try to price compare, everybody kind of seems to be roughly the same price. And maybe they do that on purpose so nobody undercuts. And so they all can kind of, still, I guess, corner the market in a way. But I mean, flights are ridiculously expensive. So I've never really flown Spirit. I flew Frontier or Allegiant once because I had to get to the Midwest. And again, I wanted a direct flight. That's how these people can grab you, because if United, for example, like United, you had to go through Houston or Chicago if you're trying to go to Panama City, Florida, and then back to Vegas. Whereas some of these other airlines, they'll allow you a way to get to Destin or wherever to, buy a direct flight. So a lot of people choose that. They also chose, these airlines because of cheaper rates. Maybe the ticket, I apologize, maybe the ticket price might be cheaper, but Spirit Airlines was known for charging for water. In fact, what some people said online they would do is they would order ice. So they'd ask the flight attendant for ice and then hope that the ice would melt, and then they could drink that without spending $4 or $5 for a bottle of water. So, the business model, them trying to, and in fact, from what I saw, Spirit Airlines flights wasn't that much cheaper, just like Frontier and Allegiant, than what I could get with other flights. Because by the time you try to pay for a non-middle seat, because you don't get to, if you want a seat assigned, you have to pay extra for that. Buying a ticket, you get a random seat. But if you actually want a seat on a plane, you have to pay on top of the ticket price, which makes no sense. You have to pay for your carry-on, pay for water. So by the time you get done with that, it's actually cheaper for you to go with the other airlines. So their business model didn't really, I think, work for a lot of people. And then, interestingly, with their timeline, because I was like, how long have they been around? Apparently, back in the 80s, it started as Clippert Trucking Company, rebranded to Ground Air Transfer in 1974, founded then Charter One Airlines. So it started in 1983 in Detroit, and they would fly to entertainment spots. 1992 to 1999, this is according to Google AI, they were rebranded as Spirit Airlines of May of 92. They got its modern name, expanded to Florida, and then they moved their headquarters to Miramar, Florida in 99. From 2007 to 11, they shifted to an ultra-low-cost model, introducing fees for checked bags. They opened up hubs in Chicago, Dallas, and Vegas. In 2020, they did receive government infusion of money. They received $335 million in pandemic-related CARES Act. So they got COVID money. 30% of their employees were on leave by October. In 2022, they attempted a merger with Frontier Airlines. That then dropped, and they were later trying to join JetBlue. A federal judge in 2023 to 2024 blocked the JetBlue Spirit merger. They were worried about antitrust concerns. So after that, Spirit then went into, from what we're being told, a financial tailspin. In November of 2024, they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy for the first time. They emerged out of the first bankruptcy with new leadership. Then they reported a $246 million net loss. This was in March, April 2025. By August, summer of last year, they filed for bankruptcy again, citing weak demand and high debt. Then they got another $100 million lifeline in December 2025 to keep operations running. They posted a $2.7 billion net loss. And then as of May 2nd, they called it and they ceased all operations. I think people are talking about how they asked the Trump administration for another $500 million. And I don't think that happened. But it sounds like they were already struggling. You're also seeing news outlets say, well, it's the Iran war. The war in Iran is messing with them. Well, the jet fuel is going up. Absolutely. Jet fuel is going up, and you're seeing airlines charge more. But sadly, Spirit was struggling. When I was on either Frontier or Allegiant, I forget which one, I remember going into the bathroom, and the toilet paper was full of pink liquid. Now, I don't think it was blood. I think it was cleaner that might have spilled, but you couldn't use the toilet paper because there was a chemical on it. And that was the last time I flew one of the budget airlines because I'm like, I need toilet paper, or I have to bring my own toilet paper. And so, budget airlines, it's tricky. I mean, it's expensive for you to get where you need to go. I mean, I just took a flight from Northwest Florida to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Las Vegas. If I tried to spend that on gas, I mean, it's going to be expensive. And air travel is going to continue to go up in price because everything else is going up in price. Staff, health insurance, liability insurance, just things are just going to start getting more and more expensive. And the problem I'm having is when you see these airlines charge, $900 for a domestic flight, even Southwest, God bless Southwest because I use them, but they one leg to where I needed to go was about $525 for one leg. So then coming back, it might have been a little cheaper. I would have been paying $900 to $1,000 for a domestic flight. And if people stop paying for that, then maybe the companies will start lowering their rates. And the ones who are big corporations that are very, very wealthy will be able to stay strong. Spirit was already struggling. So what do the customers do? Well, if you put that purchase of that ticket on a credit card and you didn't get your service, I would call your credit card and try to see if you could get your money back. If you didn't get that service. You paid for it, you didn't get that service, and a lot of credit card companies will refund you. If you really do need to get home, multiple other carriers are trying to, with a cap of like $200 or a discounted rate, get you on another flight. You might have to sit in the middle seat. You might have to take what you could get. You might have to split up from the family, but other carriers are trying to step in. In terms of your miles and your points, for those of us that really rely on our points, because all these airlines try to grab you by saying, if you continue to use us, you get points and then you get, free flights. Those are gone. You're not going to get reimbursed for that. So those points that you accumulated over the years, it's sad because you put a lot of money into that airline and, to do that, those will be gone. For the staff and crew, what I think the FAA is doing right now, Sean Duffy is doing, is Patrick Duffy, that's Dallas. Sean Duffy is doing is he's trying to allow fast track applications for those workers from Spirit Airlines to then apply, because American, United, they still need pilots. They need staff. So if you're from Spirit and you're already currently working, or you're obviously been working and you haven't been, furloughed, for a long period of time, you're still active and you're still, up to date on everything. They're trying to figure out a way to fast track so you could try to get a job with other remaining airlines that are there. So, whose fault is it? Was it, the Biden administration's fault? That judge that stopped the merger? Was it Trump for not bailing them out when they were struggling? Personally, I think it's the company's fault. When a company fails, it's their fault. They did try to merge. They did try to merge with JetBlue. And that would have allowed there to still be them having financing and working. And in fact, what kind of confused me is they say that's antitrust, but on the other end, we're having fewer and fewer airlines. There's no more TWA. There's no more PSA. There's no more United Air. I mean, we're already kind of shrinking. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
All for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So this is pretty frightening. Hantavirus has now killed, I believe, 3 people on a cruise ship, injuring hundreds more. And medics are now working tirelessly to evacuate people in this suspected outbreak that has happened on a luxury cruise ship off of West Africa. It's carrying British, American, and Spanish passengers. 150 people were still stuck on the vessel. 3 people have died, a Dutch couple and German national. Others have fallen ill. One person from Great Britain was able to get off the vessel and is being treated in South Africa. Now, the hantavirus is pretty dangerous. Not necessarily spread person to person. There is a respiratory illness, but usually we get it from rodent droppings or rodent urine that becomes airborne. Now, I am sure to some degree humans might be able to give that to other humans, but that's not usually how you get hantavirus. So hantavirus we've known about for centuries. There were documentation of evidence that it was around Asia and Europe for years. In the Eastern Hemisphere, according to AP News, it's been linked with hemorrhagic fever and kidney failure. But it wasn't until the early 1990s that a previously unknown group of hantaviruses emerged then in the United States, the southwestern United States. And it would cause an acute respiratory disease known as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Now, for those of you going, gosh, hantavirus sounds familiar. Why? Well, Betsy Arakawa, Gene Hackman's wife, apparently died from hantavirus. Now, that was very tragic, where both of them were found dead. And they believe that Betsy might have died first, but Gene Hackman might not have had all his mental faculties, and he ended up dying days later. Not sure. That's still confusing, but they were able to test her. The World Health Organization said in a statement yesterday that detailed investigations of the cruise ship outbreak are ongoing, including further lab testing and epidemiological investigations. The virus is also being sequenced. So we usually get hantavirus by touching rodents or their urine or saliva or droppings. And we could get it not just from touching it, but because it's getting shifted up into the air and you breathing it in. So people could be exposed in their homes, cabins, sheds. Let's say they're cleaning out a shed and there's not a lot of ventilation and they're or they're hiking and they're near mouse droppings. Sometimes we hear about this in Colorado or areas where people are hiking. That's where some people could get exposed. You drop your slice of pizza cheese down and eat it. You maybe, and then you try to blow off the dirt. Maybe that's a way to get it as well. So it's something you don't want to get. The CDC has been tracking the virus after a 1993 outbreak in the Four Corners region. Four Corners is where Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah meet. But interestingly, they figured out that what might have happened, there was a astute physician with the Indian Health Service who first noticed a pattern of deaths among young patients. This is Michelle Harkins, a pulmonologist at the University of New Mexico Health Sciences Center. She's been studying the disease for years. And so we weren't expecting to see hantavirus in the United States, let alone more of a respiratory, until it was found and then sequenced. Most cases in the U.S. are in the West. New Mexico and Arizona are hot spots. Why? Because that's where mice and humans may encounter each other. Right now, the World Health Organization, as it pertains to this cruise ship, says that there should not be risk to the wider public. That risk is low. No need for panic or travel restrictions. But authorities in the island nation of Cape Verde said they had not allowed Dutch-flagged MV Hondius to dock as a precaution, which I believe is the name of the ship. They say we're not just headlines, we're people with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home. And so there's a lot of uncertainty, they said, and that is the hardest part. That's according to one of the travelers. So the ship's Netherlands-based operator, Oceanwide Expedition, said it was looking into whether passengers could be screened and disembarked on the islands of Las Palmas and Tenerife. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. They're trying to arrange the repatriation of the two crew members and symptoms of with symptoms of the disease, one British and one Dutch, along with the body of the German national. So they are now using strict precautionary measures. And the ship, the Hondius, left Ushuaia in southern Argentina in March, according to company documentation. And then they voyaged as it was marketed as an Antarctic nature expedition. Apparently, prices for this was about $16,000 to $25,000. It traveled past mainland Antarctica, which is something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to see Antarctica and the little penguins. It went past mainland Antarctica, the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, Nightingale Island, Tristan, St. Helena, and Ascension before reaching Cape Verdean waters on May 3rd. So who died? South Africa's health department confirmed two of the dead were Dutch nationals, a 70-year-old man who died on St. Helena on April 11th, and his wife, 69-year-old, who died in South Africa after collapsing at the OR Tambo International Airport. The British man being treated at a private clinic in Johannesburg became ill on April 27th. The German victim on the ship died May 2nd. So, hantavirus, the symptoms could look like flu, fatigue, fever, and it could happen months after exposure. So, for those people kind of feeling sick, going, well, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's flu, or maybe just give me an antibiotic. We need to ask, have you been hiking? Have you been around any, rat droppings or did you touch anything dirty when you were camping or hiking or, because up to 8 weeks could be the incubation period. So to test, we could test for hantavirus. There's a blood test. We could check for antibodies. But unfortunately, we don't necessarily have a vaccine, and we don't have an antiviral for hantavirus. Usually what we have to do is supportive measures, symptomatic measures. And so the blood testing, IgM or IgM will let us know if you have current hantavirus. IgM antibodies will surface within the first 30 days. Then they will go away and you'll have IgG. Now, some of you will say, well, wait a second. Well, then how does that help if IgM goes away after a month? Well, if you don't have any known exposure to hantavirus and you're on, now 6 weeks since your exposure and you have IgG, they might surmise that could be what's going on. But IgG you will have for life. So if any of you had chickenpox or virus, your IgG will persist for life, but your IgM will go away. Your IgM is more of your acute phase. They could also do blood counts and X-rays, and we know that the CDC and local health departments can help confirm as well. But unfortunately, if you get severe hantavirus, we have to do supportive treatment. Sometimes you need supplemental oxygen, intubation, mechanical ventilation, ECMOs. ECMOs is we've spoken about that, the extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. It pumps and oxygenates a person's blood outside the body, allowing increased survival, 80% if initiated early. Now, sometimes we might use ribavirin. Ribavirin or ribavirin might actually help. Even though we don't necessarily have a lot of antivirals, we might also have to do things to normalize your blood pressure, like vasopressors, so you don't go into shock. And then, of course, we need to make sure you can take in fluids, but we don't want to fluid overload you as well. How common is hantavirus being severe? We're being told that it could be fatal 40% of the time, 4 out of 10 cases. That's a high number. And so we want to treat you early. For those of you concerned that you could have been exposed, you need to look at that. But, cruise ships in general, I love to cruise. I don't do it a lot because it's expensive. But, going on cruises it's a great way to travel and sometimes more economical. Because if you don't want to spend a whole week in one area, but you want to see a bunch of little areas and you want to, enjoy the ship and the whole, it's a great way to vacation. But it's probably one of the worst things to do if you're concerned about infectious disease. Look at what happened when COVID first started. And during the early part of the outbreak, people were not allowed to get off the cruise ship. And then they were getting more sick and more sick. You're trapped. My issue is, for the most part, most countries you travel to, if you want to get into a car and leave, you could leave. But when you're on a cruise ship, they won't let you disembark. And they also won't let you jump into the ocean. So norovirus is usually one of the biggest culprits where you get vomiting and diarrhea. You don't usually see hantavirus. But, if you're thinking to yourself, look, I don't want to be trapped if I'm sick, then you might want to rethink cruising. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So every time I see America 250, it's really exciting that we're celebrating, such an amazing milestone in this country, especially when scholars for centuries said the average democracy doesn't live past 200 years. So it's fantastic that we are reaching our 250th anniversary this summer. It's birthday. It's huge. It's amazing. However, what is crushing and devastating is how divided the country is. And every time I see America 250 and I see the American flag and the pride, I don't see the average, I don't see that unity with Americans. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, this is a big thing. This is a good thing. And no, all everyone's concentrating right now is the midterms. And everybody keeps saying if one side wins, the other side will never have a chance. And that's not what our democracy is about. And it is getting more vicious, more nasty as it pertains to politics. The Supreme Court decision saying you cannot create congressional districts based on race only now is going to look at, now it is causing states to look back saying, did you only make this, did you only create this because of one race or because of, and so now you're going to see a lot more redistricting and it's the redistricting, that's been around for a while. Gerrymandering has been around for a while, but it has gotten so vicious now because the Republicans and the Democrats feel that if they at all don't do something to tip the scale in their favor, their party will always be screwed. And that's not, okay, we're Americans. Nobody should be screwed. If a Republican wins the office or the election, or a Democrat wins the election, all Americans are supposed to benefit. You right? Because it's a representative democracy. So if you have, I'm in Nevada. So if we elect Susie Lee or Catherine Cortez Masto, or Lombardo, Governor Lombardo, they are there for us as Nevadans. Okay, what do we need in terms of our schools? What do we need in terms of our hospital structure? What do we need in terms of security or gang violence? Or what does Nevada need? Nevada's needs are very, very different from Iowa's needs or Florida's needs. What do we need? We need water. We need people to not dump their nuclear waste with us. So our representatives are supposed to represent us. So if you're a Nevadan, maybe you don't agree with Republican or Democratic philosophy, but they are representing us, which is why we honor them when we see them and we revere them because this is who, we hopefully voted for. And if they won on one party line, they have to promise that they are not going to let the other party get screwed. This is why we are slowly starting to head towards a civil war. It was really frightening when you saw the text coming out of FEMA years ago where they said, don't go up to the houses that have a Trump sign. Okay, I don't care what party you are. You're there to represent all of us. All right, FEMA is not just for the Democrats or just for the Republicans. Okay, that's not how it is. Schools are not just for Republican kids or Democrat kids, they're for everybody. And so the difference between Democrat and Republican is just the way you look at things. Democrats and Republicans are both supposed to be about national security, are both supposed to be about good education, are both supposed to be about how to improve family values and family worth and families to be able to support themselves. How to embrace legal immigration, and for people cutting the line, what should be the process if they don't do the process legally and they do the process illegally? How do you protect our legal immigrants? Because we, as Democrats and Republicans, agree that legal immigration is one of the cornerstones of our population. So we all are supposed to agree on the same things, but our approach is a little different. Our approach, maybe we might concentrate a little bit more on the environment, might approach a little bit more. We might shift some of our funding a little bit more towards this, but not this defunding, not this, I'm taking over. It's unfortunately how I think the extremes are the ones that are taking a lot of the attention, the media attention, and steering the boat. And the more this goes, the more dangerous it's going to be. I'm hearing people say, well, if the Democrats win, they're going to always be in control because they're going to make D.C. a state, they're going to pack the courts, and no Republican, and they're going to gerrymander all their states, so no Republican voice will ever get a voice. And then you hear the Democrats say the same thing about Republicans. If Republicans are able to redistrict and then they always get a House minority or a House majority, then they'll always block any future president. And so you're hearing that on all sides. And so what happens is we lose our democracy when we as citizens don't think we have our representation. So how do you avoid a civil war? How do you, I mean, we had a civil war before. And it was obvious as to why. It's because we were treating Americans badly. In the South, we completely disagreed with how things should be done economically, how things should be done, how our union should be. And I mean, thank God the North won. Thank God slaves were freed. And you know, but here we are starting to make this another life or death situation where whoever loses the next election will never be able to have power again. I mean, nobody should be hating our president. Nobody should have hated Biden or hated Trump. So the fact that you have people that hate who's representing us, even if their hate is misguided and ill-founded, the fact that you have that much animosity means you're going to have more and more individuals that are going to be pro-chaos, pro-revolution. So how do we avoid it? What do we do? It's getting worse. It's just getting worse. And so if you think, well, guys, well, you know, Trump is divisive, so the next president, it probably won't be as divisive. It probably won't be, nothing should be divisive. I mean, you know, if Iran is, you know, has been, you know, hurting Americans, been funding terrorism, and has been threatening to use their nuclear weapons and annihilate, you know, death to America, there's really no debate on that. There's no debate. It's, you know, obviously, you know, something needs to be done. It should have been done sooner, but here it is. It's being done now. Nobody wants high gas prices. Nobody wants an unsecure border. Nobody wants to not be able to access our hospital because all the beds are taken. Nobody wants poor education. Now, I think we could all agree on things. So maybe what will save us from a civil war is not having two main parties. We have Democrat and Republican. And even though the moderates really do well together, the extremes keep trying to pull it apart. And you see this divide. And I brought this up years ago where maybe we need a common sense party, where Republicans and Democrats are like, yeah, you know, we don't want, you know, China to win the moon, the space race. We want our border secure. We want to help our legal immigrants become U.S. citizens. And anybody taking cuts like at the DMV have to go to the back of the line. I mean, there's a lot of us that kind of agree with that. Now, abortions should be between the mom, the dad, and the doctor. Don't make taxpayers pay for it. Don't get, you know, the more laws that get involved, it's medical. Let it be between the patient and the doctor. The doctor could dispense, keep other people out of it so people don't have other individuals in their, you know, very tragic and personal decisions. You know, I think there's a lot of common sense, because when you ask the average person, I talk to people a lot, Republican and Democrats. I go, do you think this should be, you know, X, Y, and Z? We kind of all agree on the same thing. So maybe that's what we have to do, have a common sense one. This way you don't necessarily now have, this way the fringes can go do their fringe thing and we'll be more unified on bipartisan topics. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.